Chris Aligbe, an aviation consultant, joins us today. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Let's look at that part where they spoke about aviation. They talked about the national carrier and the debate went on. But yes, we also heard Mr. Peter talk about some different stages of those recommendations and what they expect about implementation. You listened to that debate. What struck you when you heard it?
First and foremost, I want to say I think the conference was robust and it was one of the best things we have had in our time. And there are issues that are constitutional. And Peter side was reacting to those that are within the purview of the executive, which an issue like aviation national carrier, which they discussed. Yes, they discussed, some people said, revive Nigeria Airways, and they threw it out. And I agree with them. It should be thrown out, and it was good it was thrown out. Nobody should revive anything like Nigeria Airways. But then to say, what I don't agree is that government should not make effort to put back a national flag carrier. Today we are losing about $1.6 billion foreign airlines transfers out of this country. By 2018, we should head to about $2 billion annually out of this country, transferred by foreign airlines.
So why do you say they should not revive Nigeria?
Nigeria Airways. No, Nigeria Airways is set up. It was such that, it was killed by those who owned it, first and foremost, and the structure is no longer the structure of the present day. Any airline where government has controlling equity will not survive. All that government needs to do is maybe a sovereign equity, sovereign cover equity of about 5% or whatever. Nigeria Airways was totally owned by government, so going to revive it is just to create the situation you had before. It would fail because we don't have the discipline to run such. We don't have the kind of discipline Ethiopia has.
But we need the national carrier.
We need a national carrier. Look, there are so many. There are over 200 Nigerian pilots, young boys who have done piloting. They have no job. Niger Delta, most of the militants are being trained in the aviation sector. Many of them have become pilots and engineers. There's no job for them. When you finish, when you bring them out, there will not be any job for them. And what we are losing is such that is unimaginable. I think the conference took a decision with reference to the information available to them at the time they took the decision, and the fact that they didn't assemble all this information before them. In the next 4 years, we will have almost 300 young pilots trained. There will not be any job. No foreign airline is employing them. Private airlines are too weak to engage them, and they're looking for those who are ready to fly, to make money for them. They're not looking for people who will go through process of training before they now become operative as commercial pilots. So these people will stay without job. And then the same with engineers.
That already gives us a little problem in the sense that you're looking at decisions that were reached without possibly consultant inputs, like a thorough knowledge of those areas. I mean, we heard Mr. Peter saying that there are areas where the government, the executive arm of government, can quickly implement as a matter of policy. Yes. But then again, people would say that those kind of policies or the recommendations will have to be put to the test to see if they're actually implementable or if it was something that was just decided out of the whims of the moment.
I agree perfectly. It's not going to be a blanket decision. All these resolutions have come, let us implement them. No, there are some that will be that should be subjected to further examination. Nigeria will never become a hub. Nigeria is sitting as the best hub in Africa, but it will never become a hub without a national flag carrier. Never. That's the truth of it. And hubs, if you go to Heathrow, if you know the kind of money that Heathrow Airport makes, if you know the kind of money that Charles de Gaulle or Schiphol, if you know the kind of money they make at hubs, and what they contribute to the GDP or the engine of growth in those countries, you imagine why we are sitting on a natural hub and we are not taking advantage of it. No foreign airline will ever turn Nigeria into a hub.
How should we go about setting up a national carrier?
Thank you. First and foremost, we shouldn't go it the way we went before. Whether the way we went on Nigeria Airways started the way it should start when it started. That's a new nation. That was the old regime. We shouldn't go the way we went on Virgin Nigeria, where we had no roadmap, we had no input. Somebody just came from somewhere, Branson, put a prototype, and then the president approved it, and we went that way. If Nigerians know the fraud that went into on Virgin Nigeria, Nigerians will pick up a gun and look for anybody who was involved in that, particularly from the Virgin executive. It was so fraudulent in terms of a lease of aircraft that should be leased for $120,000 per block hour in a month, we were paying $180,000 monthly. Things that should be stayed for 2 years before you give them up and look at them, you extend it to 5 years, and we were paying.
But we had an aviation sector. How did they allow that happen?
Well, because again, they did not talk to those who know. There was no Nigeria interest in that airline. It was all the Virgin Group. And when they finished fleecing the country, they packed their baggage, gave some funny excuses, and left. And so that's that. We need to set up a national carrier. What people will talk about is the funding and whatever. You see, the Nigeria aviation industry, airline subsector, is in its infancy.
It's one thing you say that, because we do remember that the story that went out of the country when Mr. Branson left was that Nigeria was one of the most corrupt places to do business in, and that was why he packed his bags and left. He left the deal.
It's because people who were in government refused to have the guts to do a forensic investigation of the expenditure of what, in fact, UBA at a point, because UBA at a point became virtually an owner of Virgin when he pulled out, because UBA invested so much. When UBA looked at some of the bills Virgin was paying, they cancelled some of them. But these things have been there over time. Nobody looked at how much he was paying his pilots, his technical people. Nobody looked at any other thing. But the aircraft, I tell you, the lease of the aircraft, when Olumide came to run the place after he pulled out, he called Nick Fadugba. Said, look, go and renegotiate this thing, these aircraft deals. Renegotiated it with GCAS that was charging $180. Branson and his group, they were paying $180,000 on block hour, while Nick got it down to $120. The actual rate is about $100,000. But this is what we paid in this country. We paid nonsense for branding, everything we paid, whatever. We paid for them, all the employees. And so we lost money. The $35 billion that became an issue, it wasn't created by a man, the last man who took it over, that was being pilloried. It was created by the Virgin Group.
So why do you think we've not had the courage to tell our story? Is it because we too were culpable in terms of how it happened?
I wouldn't know, but I must tell you sincerely, this thing came up during the Dana probe report, the Dana crash probe. It came out, and in the report, it occupied about 8 pages, what happened with Virgin Nigeria. I can say that authoritatively because I was a consultant to the National Assembly on that probe.
The probe into the crash?
Into the crash.
Issues about
yes, issues of what happened with the airlines, because, you know, they called the issue of the central bank was there, UBA was there, and all the people involved in that airline, they were there.
But looking at a national carrier, Chamberlain asked the question, how do we go about setting up a national carrier that's world standard and will not cost us the nation?
Thank you. One, the first thing you look at in any place, who is going to manage it? First, you must make sure that you are involving a world standard airline, a world class airline. But not today, they will come as equity, those who will hold equity. They will come to help you set it up before they will go into equity buying.
Okay, please hold.